Peter Oliver reporting there now. It's the 15th anniversary of an atrocity that shook America and which continues to resonate to this day. The terror attacks of 9/11 took almost 3,000 lives when suicide bombers crashed 2 passenger jets into the World Trade Center in New York, another into the Pentagon, while a 4th was brought down in a field in Pennsylvania. We spoke to Rick DeSantis, who survived the attack on the Twin Towers.
After Tower 1 was hit by a plane, I proceeded to Tower 2 to go inside, at which time, when I got to the doors of the lobby of Tower 2, I heard the second plane, turned around slowly. It seemed as if it was slow motion, and watched the large gray plane proceed to enter as it was gyrating wildly with the wings, which you only had to have seen it to understand it. It was impossible. Anyway, it entered above me, massive fireball explosions, and I was blown back. I then proceeded to go back into the towers, and I was in both towers with both planes inside. Well, I think I only survived by the grace of God. As I entered back into the building, I was trying to get up to somebody, and it was where the plane went in, the second plane, and there was the chaos inside. I proceeded to carry people that were injured while all the debris and everything were coming down. Later, people were jumping. I even encountered a police officer, a young police officer, who was in shock, who couldn't move. He just was staring at the gaping hole in Tower 2. That day, many things occurred. The flames, the ball of fire, they've never left my mind. I have nightmares all the time. They don't go away. They don't go away. It was absolutely catastrophic.
Well, marking the 15th anniversary of the tragedy, activist group Pixel Helper projected the words 9/11 Bank onto the Saudi embassy in Berlin. The group accuses Riyadh of supporting and financing the perpetrators of the attacks. Well, Saudi Arabia vehemently denies any complicity, although in July the US published previously classified elements of a report on the atrocity known as the 28 Pages. It stated that some of the hijackers received support from individuals who may have been connected to the Saudi government. We spoke to Brian Becker from the Answer Coalition. He thinks that there's still a lot of secrecy surrounding the events of 9/11.
The 9/11 Commission, the official commission investigating what happened on September 11th and why it happened and who perpetrated this attack, it's been shrouded in a lot of secrecy. There's a lot that's still unknown. The fact that 15 of the 19 known hijackers were identified as Saudi citizens, and the fact that there were 28 pages of a report conducted by that same investigative unit about Saudi role that were kept in the dark, were not made public, indicates that there was some connection between some parts of the Saudi royal family and the terrorist attacks. And we know that to be true. Osama bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia. The CIA worked with parts of the Saudi royal family and Osama bin Laden in carrying out the war in Afghanistan in 1978, 79, and throughout the 80s. And of course, there is the intertangling of Saudi intelligence with Osama bin Laden and with al-Qaeda. So a great deal still remains to be discovered about what actually happened and the Saudi role in this attack.
Well, the effects of 9/11 spread far beyond America, drawing in other nations to combat ruthless insurgents in a battle that's still ongoing. Gian now looks at how the world has changed since 9/11 sparked the war on terror.
When George W. Bush announced the war on terror in the wake of 9/11, few could imagine that 15 years later, terrorism would be rampant around the globe.
Our war on terror begins with al-Qaeda, but it does not end there.
The U.S. went chasing down bin Laden and started a war with the Taliban in Afghanistan. 2 years later, the Bush administration falsely claimed Iraq's Saddam Hussein had ties with al-Qaeda and had weapons of mass destruction.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing.
In the wake of the U.S. invasion, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, or AQI, began to form. Years later, the group would morph into ISIL and wreak havoc around the world.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
When ISIL started to seize territory in Syria and Iraq 4 years ago, the Obama administration spoke of a victory against Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda has been decimated. Osama bin Laden is dead. So we've made real progress these past 4 years.
It turned out to be too early to celebrate, as the number of terrorist attacks around the world has grown. Al-Qaeda is now active in Syria in the form of groups like al-Nusra, and ISIL has carried out or inspired attacks in over 20 countries. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Chakyan, RT.
Thanks for being with us today. Up next, the story of the electronics industry's involvement in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a resource-rich nation blighted by brutal war.